The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Whether you're new to sales or a lifetime veteran, the Blackbelt Sales Podcast will sharpen your sword and guide you to master the art of sales. And now, here's your host, the ninja himself, Gene Slade.
Welcome back again to the Blackbelt Sales Podcast. Good morning, Don. Glad to have you back. You were off last week. What the heck were you doing? Where were you at?
Thanks for taking care of business for us while I was gone. I got to stay 9 days in Kauai. So driving all over the island, seeing the mountains, seeing the Nepali coast, getting engaged. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on for me on that.
Neither you or I learned our lesson the first time around, did we?
No, I guess not. But yeah, it's a wonderful girl, wonderful life I'll have with her. So it's exciting. We've been dating a year now. I met her the week after I signed my divorce papers. So
this sounds similar stories, right? Well, man, that's awesome. Congratulations. More than anything, I'm just happy to see you happy, right? And it's been an amazing, 4 or 5 years, 8 years really, that we've been spending together, and we've gone through a lot of shit in life, haven't we?
Definitely. Thank you. Thanks for saying
Good
that.
stuff too.
It's really wonderful when my kids even say, I'm just glad to see you happy again. And that was great. I didn't realize how unhappy I really was before. So things are getting better every day for me. So this is wonderful.
So we're coming up on that time of year, Don, where especially for the HVAC industry, a lot of them will see a bit of a lull, right? A bit of a dip. And a lot of times we're not ready for it. And in a couple of ways, right? You and I are going to talk about the sales side of that today and what that looks like, because we've been in a drunken monkey season for a while. But I think we should probably also cover maybe a solution to getting those phones to ring through that slow time, right? So, but let's run down on what you've seen in your businesses in the past. What happens this time of year, especially in an election year?
Yeah, and we tend to call this the shoulder seasons. We hear that said a lot. We're coming off of the weather creating this sense of urgency, and that's what it really is. When someone can delay things, you have to ask yourself, really, when you walk away without a sale, you have to ask yourself 2 questions. What was the need? And as technicians, we often can explain that stuff really well. But what was the sense of urgency? So why should they buy now versus I can wait? And I tell my story about, rent or your car note. So, it's due on the 1st. They charge you the penalty on the 11th. So most people think the rent's due on the 10th. Right? That's what our mentality turns into. So if we tell a customer that they have some issues, right? We get them to come to their own conclusion that they have some issues, but they can either fix them today or they can fix them next spring.
Which would you choose, right?
Which would you choose? And if it were you, which would you choose? You would probably say, well, look, we'll deal with it next spring, right?
Yeah.
There has to be some sort of penalty like your rent that kind of makes you want to do it today. So why should they buy? That's the need. Why should they buy now? That's the sense of urgency. We tend to lose our sense of urgency through the shoulder seasons or through when there's a distraction, be it the economy, be it the election, be whatever comes on the news tonight that distracts people, right?
Whatever gloom or doom they're going to talk about tonight, and they will.
And they will. They'll come up with another one. If everything was great, they'll invent another one. So those become the urgency top of mind unless we can show how doing things now is to their advantage, is what it comes down to. How
Or
waiting
leader
becomes
being a disadvantage, right?
exactly how waiting becomes a disadvantage. And we'll move away from pain a lot faster than we'll move towards pleasure. So the
Yeah,
pain of having to pay more, the pain of more significant repairs, the pain of, you know, all those issues that are going to come up. That is so much more motivating than the pleasure of knowing I took care of it today or the pleasure of the actual. So, you have to look at what is the penalty for waiting. Water filtration, bad stuff in your water. The penalty for not getting a water filtration system may very well be having to replace all the water lines in the home with all the clogged, or the damage to the ice maker and the
right.
washing machine and the dishwasher, having to replace appliances earlier than you would have. So you have to look at what is the higher penalty and make that comparison. Can you see now why people get water filtration rather than waiting and having to replace all their pipes and then get the water filtration system?
Yeah.
You want me to go ahead and get you on the schedule for that while I'm here today. That
Assumptive close.
assumptive close, kind of letting it be easy. And that's part assumptive close lets it be easy for a client to do business with us, right? We ask it in a way that it's just easy to agree versus them having to feel like they have to make a big decision. So that's just part of it. But what is the sense of urgency? As weather goes away, I found in my company that the drunken monkey season, as we say, people form bad habits. They cut a few corners, they make a sale. The next call they go on, they cut the same corners and they may or may not make the sale. But when the
Yep.
weather disappears and you're still in that habit of cutting corners, you tend to see that people aren't moving. 3 calls in a
What's an
row
example
that you
of,
didn't even get
on
the
the
manager.
sales side? What's an example of cutting corners? What do you mean?
Yeah, well, in the
By
sales
the way,
process,
I'm sorry, guys. If you're watching this on a live, will you please just put live down in the comments for me? And then also, please just put where are you checking in from in the country or in the world? That would mean the world to me. So please do that for me, guys. If you're watching it on a replay, just put replay down in the comments. Go
yeah.
ahead, Don.
Well, we get to the point where we cut corners, and it may be something simple like we don't do the full greeting, or we don't do the full inspection,
Right.
or we just aren't very professional. We didn't even make sure our shirt was clean. We didn't get the cigarette smoke, or,
Didn't get a time commitment.
yeah. And we get a time commitment's a big part of getting a little lazy because, yeah, hey, most of the time we teach time commitment. Most people will say, "No, I'm not going anywhere." So technicians are like, "Why do I keep asking that?" I never get the yes that they're going anywhere. It's like 1% of the time you get it. But if you don't get it, it becomes a real easy objection for them to give that I've got something to do. Just leave me a copy of this. If you've ever heard them say, I've got something I got to do, I got somewhere I got to be, leave me a copy of this, it's because you really didn't get the time commitment
You
up
didn't nail it
front.
down.
Yeah, you didn't nail it down. People are consistent, and if they say they have nowhere to go, they'll have a harder time faking that, if that makes sense.
You have to get that time commitment twice in a row, and that and more is available inside the Lead Ninja Mastermind, and we teach that stuff at our live events like the one coming up in September. Now, Don, you're talking about skipping steps. As an example, audience, we've got a very specific, let's say, tune-up process for HVAC technicians here at Lead Ninja, and that process, there's maybe 41 steps or something like that in it. And what Don's talking about is you just start kind of leaving out steps. You start shortcutting the system, right? And consider that making a sale, doing your job as a technician or a salesperson, it's kind of like baking a cake or baking a pie. There's a process, right? There are ingredients. And if you leave ingredients out, what happens to the end results of your pie or your cake? right?
Yeah,
It's not
will not
going
be
to
good.
turn out, right? And nobody's going to want to eat it. It's the exact same thing. And this is part of the tedious or boring part of our job, Don, when you get really, really good at the process and it just flows, it's almost like Groundhog's Day, right? Doing the same thing over and over and over again, but it's part of the recipe for success. If Amazon changed all of their processes right now just for the hell of it, what would happen? Right? They've got good processes for a reason. It's what's made them the largest, probably, I don't know what you would call them. They're a retailer, a passer througher person, like,
Right.
but I mean,
They get put in the technology camp too, which is just
yeah.
crazy. They're selling products and they're a technology company for it. So that's an interesting
So if it's good enough
part.
for Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
go ahead, man.
Yeah, a process makes it's better, and we get the people wanting to skip the process or improve the process, and they're typically fear of success. They start getting some success, things are going well, and they go, "Yeah, I don't know if am I really supposed to be this successful? Do I really deserve it?" Start questioning myself, and then you start skipping steps, and then you mess it up, and then you realize, and then you have to say to yourself, "Was it?" Was it that the system didn't work, or I just didn't work the system? And then you have to go back to basics. I remind my guys for years, and this was the time, and I've sent some texts. It's the time to get back to basics. And what I mean by that is see how many more steps of your sales process you can do on this call than you
Right.
did on the last call. Because a lot of times we have that, I'm going to just figure out what I can cut out and make it shorter and shorter and shorter. And then and then in the summer you're still making some sales. I think you would make more sales staying with the process, but you're still making sales, so you get that feedback that, hey, that was good. I've perfected this. And then when they fall off the cliff, then it becomes difficult to get it back to. And you might still have weather or the item to give you that sense of urgency, but it will disappear. Maybe it's 2 more weeks, maybe it's 4 more weeks, and it'll start practicing the full process again. If you're on Lead Ninja, you know what all those steps are, but go back to basics now, and you won't fall as far or as hard when that sense of urgency gets taken away. Build your own sense of urgency. It's what it
Here's
comes down to.
here's an example, guys. If we've been in drunken monkey season for a while, right? When it's super hot or super cold, people just make the decisions. The weather is the sense of urgency, and we as a community are pretty crappy at being able to build one when there's not hot or cold, right?
Sure.
So I'm going to ask you right now, because here's what's coming at you very soon. I want to think about it. Are you prepared to handle that? Do you have the right questions? Do you have a pre-planned presentation that you know works 90+% of the time? Do you have that right now? Or do you not have it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a way to respond to, I want to wait until the spring, right? Without sounding salesy to a client, right? Do you have that or not? If you don't have it, you might want to get it. And if you can't come up with it yourself, you might want to purchase it or find somebody that can share it with you.
Right.
People like us. But if you don't have that, if you're not ready for that, isn't it stupid to, like, I was listening to Andy Elliott one time, Don, I know that we've talked about this before, and he said, if somebody walked into a room that you were in and they walked straight up to you and they slapped you in the face, and then they kept walking, and they walked around the entire room, and you kind of had your eye on them. By the next time they got around to you, would you be ready?
Mm-hmm.
Like, isn't that the same thing? If a client gives you an objection, if they slap you across the face with an objection, and then they walk away, shouldn't you be prepared for it by the next time that objection comes around? Because is it or is it not affecting your ability to provide for your family? Is it or is it not affecting your ability to serve clients and help grow your business or help grow the company or raise yourself up on that totem pole?
Yeah.
So you want to be ready for those things.
Be prepared for it, or are you going to sit there and just blame the customers? These darn customers.
People
These
are cheap. Nobody's buying nothing right now.
Right. Yeah. Are you going to blame yourself, or are you going to get prepared? Can you handle, I want to think about it? Can you handle, I want to talk to the spouse? Can you handle your price? That's a lot of money. Your price is too high. Can you get them to open up and tell you more about that? Can you say more about that?
Can you handle, I want to talk to my spouse, because they're going to use the crap out of it on you right now when you're running just one decision maker there. Are you able to overcome that stuff? Are you prepared? And if you're not, it's time. It's time, because it's not going to be the easiest fall that you guys have ever been through.
I certainly believe it will be a tougher next 6 months, fall and winter. I think it will be a little tough. And from a business standpoint, when the calls stop coming in from the demand, how are we going to offset that? How are we going to pick that up? How are we going to get the schedule full? If you're a manager or business owner, that's what you have to worry about. Certainly, you have to worry about making sure your guys aren't burning the few leads you can get. But you have to really keep the schedule full, because if they have nothing to go on, then there's no chance at all.
And people are more flaky this time of year as customers with keeping appointments, right? So you're going to need to maybe have an extra half a call per technician on the board, because they drop off a little bit more rapidly as we come into not just election season, but Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. If you've been around the game a minute, you know it's coming.
Sure.
Right? So, Don, one of the ways that we can prepare for that is to be ready to do outbound calling, or begin to start doing outbound calling right now. I love it when I freeze like that, but start doing outbound calling right now, and start filling up that calendar. And if you don't have people to do that, there are tools like Lead Ninja AI, right? We have a robot, an AI that sounds like a human, that calls out to your existing base and schedule those appointments, right? You can do text campaigns. You can do all that stuff. That AI, by the way, can also handle your incoming calls. It can read your schedule. It can book stuff. I mean, like, it's phenomenal, and it's cheap, okay? So if you want information about the AI, just put AI down in the comments, and I'll make sure that you get what you need. You can listen to some demo calls that we've already had with it. It is in operation. We started working on it about a year ago, and we're now using it for our clients. So that could be a solution for about $1,000 a month for you. That's way less than going out and hiring somebody and onboarding them and all the, I mean, God, don't you have enough to do right now? Right. And the cool thing is that in 5 minutes, the thing can book your schedule. Like, we can call 1,000 customers all at the same time if we want. So that's a phenomenal solution for you business owners out there.
That is. What if you say, well, I don't have a big enough list for that? Like, what, how big of a list do I need? Especially like maintenance customers. Here's what I would do every year. I would go back and look at every ticket that I wished I had sold a maintenance agreement on. Like, why didn't we get a maintenance agreement out of this relationship, this house, this zip code, this amount of spend, whatever I was looking at? I would just go and find those about this time every year, and I would just say, why didn't we? Now, you can do a couple of things with that. You can learn from it. You can call them back and try to sell it to them. And what we did often was just kind of rebill it in a way so it worked out to be the same number, but they got a service agreement out of it. Because if someone's spending money with you, you want to get to that house as often as possible.
Yep.
So it was, and then you can just pick up the phone and say, hey, remember last spring when we were there? You have a follow-up appointment that's already been paid for. I don't like the word free. I can say it sometimes, but a no-charge call. I like the thing that it was included.
Words matter.
It was included in that work that we did, and it's time. Will you be available? Assume the sale, assume the appointment. Do you want it? No. You say, it's time. It's the follow-up. It was included in that service just to make sure you don't have any issues. Everything's good. And will today at 3 or tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. be better for you?
Right.
And then you just assume the sale and put it in the schedule. It's a little late for this next technique, but we should do like the dentist's office. When we leave a call, we should be booking the next appointment. We work so hard to fill our schedule, and we all go to the dentist, and they give us that little card, and they book our next appointment for us. And what, 90 plus percent of the time, I can keep that appointment. I don't have to reschedule it. But even if I do, I feel obligated that I got to chase them down to reschedule it versus them chase me down. So think about every time you leave a house, booking the next call.
Yep.
Book the next appointment. If they have a maintenance agreement, perfect. If they don't, book a follow-up appointment. Get with your managers, get with your owners, and let's figure that out, because that is the challenge right now. Is if we roll the rock up the hill every year, and every season, we got to go out and book more appointments and more appointments. And your AI is fixing that, but why don't we just do it while we're in the house? It takes an extra 15 seconds, probably. Okay, call it a minute. It takes an extra minute, and you just go ahead with that. And then most of your systems will give those reminders and keep the people with their appointments. But just go ahead and set it. Every chance. You shouldn't leave a house unless you know when you're coming back. That can be on a sales call. Like, don't leave and say, I'll follow up. No, set it. I'm going to be back next, here today, I'll be back on Thursday, Friday, next Monday. Depends on what the customer says. And I'll just be back here to see if you have any follow-up. So make a follow-up appointment before you leave, right?
In phone sales, you do the same thing. Like when I'm selling to contractors across Zoom or across the telephone, anytime they're not giving me a commitment right now, I'm always scheduling the next conversation before I get off the phone. It's just like it's something that's just ingrained in us, right? Just set that next appointment right now. Because forget following up with them and trying to set an appointment. You're going to spend anywhere between 6 to probably 9 contacts on average just trying to set that appointment, if you ever get it.
Sure. Well, fill in the schedule from the office standpoint. Let's do a follow-up on every call and do a happy check. And why didn't you go ahead with that surge protector? Why didn't you get a surge protector when we were there? Why didn't you, whatever it is? And that will start a conversation that generally is money, right? If it were free, people would just do everything that we put on our list.
Right.
So generally,
there would be no end to the work that we would be doing.
You would definitely have more work than you could handle in the off season because it was free, right? So all we have to do is get people to kind of admit or say it was the money, and now you have a conversation about the money, right? People won't have a conversation about the money for things they don't feel they need. My story is always, I'm not interested in pricing on pink flamingo pool toys, right? I don't give a damn what they cost. And you're not going to get me to ask what's the price of them, nor am I going to ask for 0% for 60 months or 24 months for pink flamingo pool toys. I don't want them. So people, when they have the money conversation, they're admitting that they have a need. In their mind, they're agreeing that I got to get this work done. It's just the money. So if you find yourself getting into those conversations, it's great, because that means you did establish the need.
Right.
You did establish the need.
If they act like they don't care, then you have not established a need.
Right. There's no penalty for waiting. There's no, there's nothing that you've shown that they could just do it later, right? They could just do it later. So sense of urgency is very important for us. Back to the sales side, that sense of urgency. What is the penalty for not fixing it? What's the penalty for not getting the best filter? It's probably going to get the ductwork even worse. It's going to, the ductwork's going to get nasty, and you're going to have to either get a duct cleaning, which will cost more money than the filter.
Okay, hold on though. I feel like we're doing that thing where we talk it ourselves or we talk it to the client, right? So let's just give them an example, right? So you're in my house, I don't have a filtration system, and you want to get me to come to my own conclusion that I need to get one, right? So let's talk about how we might do that. What kind of questions we might ask. So my first, I'll lead it off. Ready? Why
Okay.
don't you have a filtration system?
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, right? That's what they're probably going to say. They're going to give you confused. What do you mean?
I'm going to jump in and go. I don't know. Nobody's ever mentioned it. So
Yeah.
what
So
are some questions you could leave the people with today to ask?
Yeah. So were you aware that all this stuff is in your ductwork? And you might give a visual, right? You might be looking at it there, hopefully bringing them to that. Do you know what that does to your system?
No.
Do you know what? So you weren't aware that all of this stuff will get all over the parts and clog up your coil? Do you think that's good?
Probably not.
Okay. So you're getting them to come to a conclusion or a thought that says maybe this is bad, right? Now, well, what do you think would happen if you ever had to replace these components? Have you ever had to replace the motors? Have you ever had to replace your coil?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, it wasn't cheap, was it?
No, it was like $1,500.
Wow. Yeah. Can you see now why my clients just get filtration rather than having to wait for all this dirt to tear up the motors and the coils and have to get major repairs?
Yeah, how much is it? Now we're into a conversation about money.
Yeah,
right?
which is exactly what I said. People won't have a conversation about money until they believe they need it. So you came to a conclusion that we felt we needed something there. So that's a big part. What is the penalty for not doing it? Having to replace the whole duct system might be the penalty for not buying the filter. Right?
Hey, it's funny that you're talking about that. Obviously, there's all kinds of stuff in our air, but a lot of these duct systems get really, really nasty, right? And did you guys know that the average human sheds around 9 pounds of skin cells a year, and that stuff gets up into the ductwork as well, and that's kind of like the perfect area for dust mites to end up finding themselves and defecating all in the ductwork and everything. Have you ever considered that stuff, guys? Like, I will look down the ductwork with a flashlight or take pictures down through there, and I'll go and I can share some of this stuff with the client. Did you know that the average human sheds 9 pounds of skin a year? Are you the original owner of this house? How old was the house when you bought it? Whose skin cells are those? Would you like me to leave them in or get them out? Right? Like, there's all kinds of questions that we can ask. Like, I'm not trying to sell you something, a duct cleaning there. You're just going to want me to get that stuff out for you. Do you see the difference, guys? We're selling a problem. We're not selling a product. We're not selling duct cleaning. I didn't even mention duct cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Don, on your filter scenario, like, let's just throw out even more questions. Do you know why your system is so dirty inside? So you weren't aware that it's because we're using this filter that you can see through? Can you see me right now? Did you know that 85% of the particles in your home are about 1/85,000th of an inch in size, and that they just slip right through these? Do you suppose that wet coil, when it's wet, it catches more of that dust? Can you see now why it gets clogged up? What happens when you put dust and water together, right? Did you know the air is supposed to flow through this? If air can't flow through it, did you know that causes problems with your outdoor compressor, like permanent and irreversible damage? Like, there's so many questions that we can ask clients to start establishing these needs. But nobody seems to know how to do this. And nobody teaches it.
Well, isn't that what's going to be at the class?
What's that?
Aren't we going to cover that? Aren't you going to cover that at this next class in September?
Absolutely. So, guys, September 29th through October 3rd. You've been seeing the ticker across the bottom of the screen here. That's been telling you what time the dates in the class are. But we've got an 18,000 square foot mansion out on 5 acres in the mountains of Gatlinburg, Tennessee. We're currently 76 or 77% sold out. We've only got 6 rooms left. We've got a maximum participant capacity of like 66 people. So there's like 51 or 52 people signed up right now. So
Wow.
if you want to get like trained like a ninja, if you want to go from $1 million or $2 million a year to $4 or $5 million a year, or maybe you're like the guy I talked to yesterday. He's only done $100,000 in the last 5 months, 20K a month, and he's struggling, right? You gotta come out and see us, right? Hit us down in the comments, like just say mansion, or I'll tell you what, I'll give you my cell phone number, text me, and I'll get you whatever information you want. My cell is 239-848-6533, 239-848-6533. But do it quickly, because that'll be sold out. And then Don, the next class after that is strictly comfort advisor and high ticket sales. We won't be having like junior techs in that. And that is December 6th through the 8th at the Grand Hollow Mansion in Florida.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
So Don,
and I guess if you're Gatlinburg, you'd fly into Knoxville. Is that where the closest airport would be for you?
Yes. Yeah. If you're flying commercial, you fly into Knoxville.
Okay. About an hour ride up to it, I would guess, from there.
Yeah, it just depends on what time of day it is and what day it is, right?
Sure.
But it's about 38 mile Uber, and but once you get to the mansion, you don't need anything. Your lodging, your food, your drinks, like everything's all completely included. And just FYI, this is the cheapest we have ever been able to do this. So if you, especially for teams, so if you've got 3 guys or 2 guys or 3 guys or 4 guys, we can pack them into one room, because the rooms are big enough. They're all king suites with queen futons. And so we can pack them into a room and do it cheaper than we've ever been able to do it before. And just FYI, guys, one of the reasons we're doing it this way is because of the way the house is designed, but also because about 70-80% of the people that come to these things end up inside of our Lead Ninja Mastermind, which is our continuing education program.
Right.
And so we're really serious about building that backside of our business. And I'm super serious about keeping Don busy coaching people. So that's one of the reasons we're doing this one this way. But Don, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to have a lot more participants than normal, because the house can hold it. Right.
That's great. And this is the time of year that so many people need the little extras, need the little help, need to know how to handle. I want to think about it. I want to wait after the election. And that's all going to be covered there and through the mastermind and the continuing education and the certification, right? Getting certified with Lead Ninja is incredibly powerful. It's not only you have to hear us say it, then you read it. You actually have to record the video of yourself saying it, and then we judge it and we grade it, and it's graded really pass fail, and you have to pass every level. And once you can video yourself handling, I want to think about it, or I want to talk to the spouse, or fan motors, or anything else, the information. It takes another level of knowledge to be able to turn the camera on and record your script, record you saying it. And that's a big part of it. The guys who do it see a tremendous increase. You can go through the whole certification process in 30 days, maybe 60 days. 30 to 60 days is the norm, and it changes the rest of your life. 30 days of really, really putting back into yourself makes a huge difference. Huge difference. So
if I told you could go to school for the next 2 months, in your off hours, off of work, and that you would triple your income, would you do it? That's what we're talking about here. And sometimes it's even greater than that. And I don't care where you're at, guys. Listen, you could be at rock bottom in your life, like so many other people that I've met. Like guys who I have met who are living in their cars with their wives, guys who are just coming out of prison that, had nothing going for them other than their grit and their determination, that are now, making $500,000 a year or more. All right. So from homeless to that is insane. So I don't care where you're at in your journey, guys. I promise you, you're not too far gone, and we can help you, and we will help you because we have a heart to help people. Don?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the class. I'm glad we've added this December, high ticket comfort advisor class. That's exciting as well. That's a lot of interaction and training we're going to get to do. And this is the time that guys need it right now.
Yeah.
We need to get back to the basics. Don't skip the steps. Try to measure yourself on how much more I do for the next call I'm going on than I did on the last call. That's a big thing. Not how do I get through it quick? How do I slow down? How do I do the full inspection? How do I get and write up the list? Do all the steps. And guys that are in the mastermind, the Lead Ninja Mastermind class, know all those steps, but are you really doing them?
Yeah.
Go back to basics. Do all the steps.
Remember, if you don't add all the ingredients in your pie, nobody's going to want to eat it.
Nobody, it's not going to be very, very tasty, or we'll say your paycheck will not be very tasty at the end of the week, right? That's your paycheck's gonna hurt to stomach that one. That's the way you could say that. So go back to basics, do all this. If you find yourself not closing on really one ticket, that should say to yourself, go back and do more on the next call. 2 tickets. If you go 1, 2, 3 tickets that you get nothing out of, a 0, the problem is in your head. The problem is you.
And sometimes you don't know what it is, Don. So you want to get a coach, guys. If you don't have a coach, if you don't have somebody who's already been where you want to go, who's already accomplished what you want to accomplish, man, it's going to make things a lot harder. And we'd love to be those coaches for you. So we can't work with everyone. There is an application process, but hit us up. Give us a shout. We'd love to at least have a conversation with you. And on that conversation, we'll do whatever we can, even if we're not a good fit to work together. We'll do everything we can to leave you with way more value than you showed up to get.
Sure.
So, Don, why don't we roll a quick promo of this next Mansion event and close this one out and see him on Thursday.
Sounds great. Thanks, Gene.
Sound good? Have a great day, Don. I appreciate you guys. I'll be right back after this promo to wrap the show up. I'll talk to you in a second. See ya.
If somebody was hesitant about coming to the Lead Ninja Mastermind, I'll tell them this. You can't afford not to go. It's going to change your life, but not only your life, your family's life.
You don't have to wait a year to start making the kind of money that you want to make. Corbin came out of here and within 30 days went from $250,000 to $500,000 in sales. So it doesn't take long as you put in the work.
I've seen a huge increase in just a short time. Last month, my total revenue for the month was only $5,200. We still have about 10 days left of the month, and I'm already at $13,500. The difference between others and this one's a lot more direct and a lot more informative in certain areas to help you overcome certain obstacles, where the other ones are just kind of broad for everybody. So this one really kind of gets down to the bottom of each and every step in the process of, doing your job as an HVAC technician. And if you really want to better yourself, then you need to invest the time in yourself, and joining this class is definitely going to help you get to that next level. If you're struggling to get to that next level, this is the class you need to be in.
Yes, I have scripted out for you, word for word, exactly how to tell them about the money.
September 29th through October 3rd, that's when you want to be in Gatlinburg. Guys, I appreciate you joining us today on this episode of the Blackbelt Sales Podcast. If you are on Spotify or you're on Apple, please shoot over and give us one of them beautiful 5-star reviews. We would really appreciate that. Until next time, Keep killing it, ninjas. Go on, slay some dragons. Love you guys. We'll see you next time.
Good luck.